Story 8. The Hunger of Jvaragram. Story 8. The hunger of Jvaragram. The vessel never emptied. That was not the miracle. The miracle was that everyone who ate from it remained hungry enough to return. The grain in Raghav's cart smelled wrong. Not rotten. Not damp. Not old. Empty. Millet should smell of dust, sun, husk, storage, field. This grain smelled like nothing at all. When he held it to his nose, his body understood it as food, but some older part of him rejected it. It had the shape of grain. It had never been alive. He drove toward Jvaragram anyway. A merchant does not question grain when the hungry are waiting. The dust plains of Kshorava were not desert. They were worse. A desert admits it has nothing to give. Kshorava pretended. Grey grass grew in patches. Wells held a little water. Villages stood on maps as if names could keep people fed. Jvaragram was the hungriest of them all. Raghav saw it before he entered. Not in the houses. Not in the fields. In the people. They moved slowly, conserving themselves. Their eyes were too large. Their skin looked thin enough for candlelight to pass through. The headman, Dinan, met him at the granary. The building was enormous. Stone walls. Vaulted ceiling. Polished floor. Empty bins. Empty shelves. A grand house built around absence. Dinan paid without bargaining. His fingers trembled as he counted silver. Then he led Raghav to the center of the granary. A copper vessel sat on a stone pedestal. Dark. Smooth. Worn by thousands of hands. Inside it lay grain that shimmered faintly, each kernel holding a tiny ember of gold. Dinan touched the pedestal with reverence and fear. He called it Kshorava, the hunger that feeds. The vessel gave each villager one handful a day. Enough to live. Never enough to feel full. Raghav looked at the copper. Looked at the grain. Looked at the starving village. A vessel that never emptied could feed a city. A city would pay more than a dying village. He lifted it. Dinan stepped back, not to stop him, but to avoid touching it. That should have warned him. The vessel was heavier than copper. Something inside it pressed against his palms, not with weight, but with wanting. He wrapped it in cloth and drove away before anyone found the courage to object. That night, he ate from it. The grain had no taste. He chewed and swallowed. His stomach filled. The hunger remained. He ate another handful. Then another. The vessel stayed full. So did he. So did the hunger. It was not a pain in the belly. It was a space behind the ribs. A hollow that knew food had arrived and refused to recognize it. By the third day, his own provisions tasted unbearable. Dried fruit was too sweet. Bread too solid. Salted meat too heavy. Only the vessel's grain felt clean enough to eat. By the fifth day, his fingernails had turned gray. By the seventh, his teeth ached as if new roots were pushing beneath them. By the ninth, his pulse slowed. Each heartbeat felt thick, like his heart was moving porridge instead of blood. He reached Aranyapura on the 11th day. The city was not starving. Its markets were full. Its kitchens smoked. Children ran past stalls holding fruit with juice on their wrists. Raghav set up his cart and offered the vessel's grain for free. People laughed at first. Then they tasted it. Then they returned. Within a week, a quarter of the city had eaten from the copper vessel. Within two, half. Bakers shouted. Grain merchants complained. The council debated whether free food was blessing or threat. The people kept eating. The first sign was the appetite. Bread stopped satisfying. Fruit became watery. Meat sat useless in the stomach. The vessel's grain filled them, but each day the fullness lasted less. The second sign was the grey. Nails first. Then lips. Then the whites of eyes. Aranyapura lost colour slowly, as though a patient hand were washing the city in ash water. The third sign was the sound. At night, Raghav heard chewing from every house. Soft chewing. Endless chewing. People ate in their sleep. Children woke with grain between their teeth. Old women dug through empty bowls with bleeding fingers. Men swallowed uncooked millet until their throats scratched raw. None of it helped. Because the grain was not food. It was hunger given shape. Every kernel carried appetite into the body. Every handful taught the stomach to want more. Kshorava did not feed people. It preserved hunger and kept the hungry alive so hunger could continue. Raghav understood Jvaragram too late. The vessel had not saved that village from famine. It had trained the village to survive famine forever. He took it back. By the time he returned, Jvaragram was nearly silent. Without the vessel, the villagers had no grain at all. They sat in doorways with mouths open, too tired to beg. Dinan met him at the granary. The headman did not curse him. That was worse. Raghav placed the copper vessel back on its pedestal. The grain inside shimmered again, faint and patient. The village breathed. But Raghav could not leave unchanged. The grey had spread up his arms. His chest felt hollow and heavy at once. When he pressed a hand to his stomach, he felt something shift inside. Not organ. Grain. That night, he vomited into the dust. Millet spilled from his mouth. Clean. Dry. Shimmering. It did not come from anything he had eaten. It came from him. The villagers saw it. One by one, they crawled closer. Raghav backed away. Their eyes followed the grain. He ran into the dust plains before dawn. He still walks there. His stomach never empties because his stomach is no longer a stomach. It is a vessel lined with copper warmth. Grain gathers inside him while he sleeps. When he coughs, kernels scatter into his palms. When he bleeds, the blood is thick with husk. He leaves handfuls outside hungry villages and tells himself he is helping. By morning, the people are eating. By the next week, they are waiting for him. Raghav eats and the hunger only deepens. His body is the vessel now. The vessel never empties. The grain was never food.